Magandang araw! Muli, ako si Teacher Mavi. Ating pag-uusapan ang tungkol sa factoring perfect square trinomials. How do we recognize a perfect square trinomial? Meron tayong dalawang kondisyon. Ang una ay, the first and the last terms are perfect squares. Ang pangalawa naman ay, the middle term is twice the product of the roots of the first and the last term. In our example, we have 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Ang ating first term ay si 4x squared at ang last term ay 9. Pareha silang perfect squares. Ngayon naman, si middle term ay galing sa twice the product of the roots of 4x squared and 9. Ang square root ng 4x squared ay 2x. Ang square root ng 9 ay 3. 2x times 3 is equal to 6x. Times 2 is equal to 12x. Now, let's try on a given example. Factor x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now, bago natin masabi na perfect square trinomial siya, kailangan masatisfy natin yung two conditions. First, the first term and the last term must be a perfect squares. Si x squared and si 9 are perfect squares. Now, si middle term dapat ay twice the product of the roots of the first and the last term. First, we get the root of the first term. What is the square root of the first term? Square root of x squared is x. What is the square root of the last term? Square root of 9 is 3. Let's check if twice the product of the first and the last term is same with the middle term given in the given trinomial. Now, we have twice the product of the first and the last term. So, 2 times x times 3 is equal to 6x. Since nasatisfy na natin yung two conditions, we can say that the given trinomial is a perfect square trinomial. How can we know the factor of a perfect square trinomial? Let's have this working formula. 2a squared plus 2ab plus b squared is equal to the quantity of a plus b squared. And a squared minus 2ab plus b squared is equal to the quantity of a minus b squared. As we can observe, since our given trinomial is a perfect square trinomial, we can get the factor by getting the root of the first and the last term and make a binomial factor. So, first, parenthesis, distribute the root of the first term and distribute the root of the second term. Ma'am, what is the operation to be used? Our operation is based on the operation given in our middle term. Since our middle term is addition, so we are going to use addition. Or the other way of writing is x, quantity x plus 3 square. So, our factor is quantity x plus 3 times quantity x plus 3 or quantity x plus 3 square. Now, let's have another example. Factor y squared minus 16y plus 64. Again, in order for us to recognize if it is a perfect square trinomial, we need to satisfy the two conditions. The first condition is the first term and the last term must be a perfect square. So, as we can observe, our first term is y squared and the last term is 64. They are both perfect square. Now, the second condition is the middle term must be twice the product of the root of the first and the last term. We need to get first the square root of the first term. So, square root of y squared is equal to y and the square root of the last term, which is 64, is equal to 8. Satisfying the second condition, we need to get the twice the product of the root of the first and the last term. So, 2y or 2 times y is equal to 2y times 8 is equal to 16y. As we can observe, our answer is same with our middle term, which is 16y. Now, we can say that the given trinomial is a perfect square trinomial. How can we get the factor of the given trinomial? We get the root of the first and the last term to make our binomial factor. But before we are going to do that, let's use our second working formula. Since our middle term is subtraction, the operation being used is subtraction. Now we have quantity, distribute the root of the first term which is y, distribute the root of the second term which is 8 and 8. Then, the operation being used in the middle term is subtraction, so we're going to use subtraction. Another way of writing is y minus 8 squared. Or in our working formula, we have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared is simply equal to the quantity a minus b squared. So, this will be our final answer. Now, our last example is knowing that our trinomial is already a perfect square trinomial. We have 9x raised to the 4th power plus 30x squared plus 25. So, meaning to say, how can we get easily the factor given that our trinomial is already a perfect square trinomial? We need to get the square root of the first term, which is 9x raised to the 4th power. Our first term is 9x raised to the 4th power, get the square root, we have 3x squared. And the square root of our last term, which is 25, is 5. Again, we're going to use the root of the first and the last term in making our binomial factor. So, our answer will be distribute the root of the first term to each parenthesis or quantity. We have 3x squared, and the root of the last term, which is 5. Since the operation being used in our middle term is addition, we're going to use addition. Or another way of writing is 3x squared plus 5 quantity squared. So, doon nagtatapos ang ating pag-aaral tungkol sa perfect square trinomial. Laging isipin na sa pag-aaral ng sitbayan, dapat ay lagi lang tayong matsaya!